And sorry, who, have we established who's going to chair this morning's meeting? I mean, I could certainly do it, but it'll be me, okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, Angela, and welcome everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order this morning. For those in attendance, just a quick update. Matt, who is present here in this morning's meeting, has decided to pass the baton on, and on a go-forward basis, both Cindy Malachowski and myself will be co-chairing the marketing committee. And as a result, I'm here chairing this morning's meeting. I'll also ask for everyone's patience. This is the first time chairing a committee, so you know, certainly I'll be looking, Angela, to your support procedurally if I have any questions or need any support. I know, Matt, you're here, so you'll certainly be a good resource to kind of help out with, right? So that's great. So again, welcome everyone, and moving on to number 2, declare this meeting be open to this meeting be open to everyone. And I, as a reminder, I know that this is being recorded for public consumption afterwards. On number 2, is there anything I need to cover, Matt? I think that simply we just.
No, you're good.
Awesome. So moving to item number 3, acceptance of the agenda. I know, Angela, you did a great job to get our board package out with plenty of time to review it. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda, and are there any notes or amendments that wish to be added to the agenda? And if not, I'd welcome a motion to accept the agenda.
Motion to accept.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second that.
So that's Cindy. Thank you, Cindy. Do we have to get an all in favor on that?
Well, there's only the 3 of you.
Not so much to say it. I think you do.
Okay. Yeah, I guess voting wise, you're right. Because everyone else in the room with you, Angela, is non-voting. So very good. I have to formally give my consent or give my vote to that, right?
Well, actually, all you need to do is ask, are there any objections?
Perfect.
And hearing none, then it's carried.
Yeah, fantastic. So any objections? I'm hearing none. So we'll carry that. Number 4, any declarations of conflicts? So I'm hearing none so far. So we'll move on to item number 5, which is approval of the previous meeting's minutes. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review those. Does anyone have any amendments that they'd like to make to the previous meeting minutes? And if not, actually, maybe I'll just take the opportunity to ask for one small amendment. Angela, I noticed that my name was spelled wrong in the just in the attendance, very top of the meeting minutes.
Okay.
So you can amend that. You'll just have to remove the C from my last name.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. My name's been spelled every which way you can imagine. So with unique first and last name, right? That's a common one. So does anyone else have any amendments? And if not, I would again welcome a motion to approve the amended minutes with my name being spelled accurately.
Motion to approve with amendments.
Very good. Can I get a seconder?
That's me.
Thanks, Cindy. Any objections? No one else to object, so I'm hearing none. So we'll consider the minutes approved. Next, item number 6, acceptance of new committee members. So I know, Angela, you forwarded 3 applications that came through governance for 3 new potential committee members. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to take a look at those applications. I know, just as a reminder for everyone in attendance, we have to maintain the privacy of the individuals who applied for these positions. So we have to be cognizant of that and make sure we're not disclosing any personal information. Would we, at this point, open this up for any discussion? You know, perhaps maybe discuss whether or not we have capacity for 3 additional committee members. Maybe is probably a good question. So maybe I would open that one up first. Does anyone want to comment on that?
Oh yeah, no, for me personally, I like being inclusive, and the more community we can engage, the better. It'll help with transparency and knowledge translation and people feeling more included and involved. And I think historically, as we know, community members come and go, and not everybody can make every meeting. So I just say the more the merrier. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, very good. Matt, any comments or suggestions there or feedback?
Yeah, no, I agree. The more we can have engaged, the better. So it's good to see that we've got interest, and it's just hopefully they stay for the long haul, and we can keep them engaged.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. One observation I would say I do have is in 2 of the 3 applications, I noticed that they've applied for multiple committees. Angela, I might ask the question, and Matt, I mean, certainly from your experience in history, what typically happens? Is there a dialogue between the various committees, and would the individual, so if an individual, for example, I see one of these applications has 4 committees applied for, would we be considering them for all 4? Well, I mean, I think we'd be considering them for all 4, but would they be granted a spot on more than one committee historically?
So I can take that, and then Matt, if you want to add. So in general, yes, they can be on more than one committee.
Okay.
It depends on their involvement in each committee. Sometimes they might be involved in a specific aspect, so it might be like more of a subcommittee, and it depends on where their expertise lies. Some people have expertise in multiple areas, and some are there for guidance in one committee and more hands-on in another committee, and maybe research in another committee, right?
Yeah.
So being on multiple committees, I don't see as a problem. And we really don't know what their time commitment or time availability is. They're the only ones who can determine that.
Sure.
We can monitor that though, if these individuals are accepted from multiple committees, and if we find that they're doing more or not attending one of the committee meetings, then we can ask them and say, we see that you're not coming to this one. Can we remove your name off the list for that committee so we can open up the spot for another one or another person?
Yeah, very good. And so I suppose through a proper interview, we could probably ascertain what their time commitment is. So for example, for an individual who's applied for 4 committees, which I see here, we would be able to ask him or her effectively what their objective is, if they want to serve on multiple committees, or if they just put all 4 down with the hope that they could serve on one, for example. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it could be that they've got expertise in a couple of the areas, and maybe one is just an interest and they want to, learn more about it, and
right.
will be active, right? But yes, I think an interview would actually help them understand the time commitment as well as us understand what they have available.
That's right. Yeah, I tend to agree with both Matt and Cindy. I think that inclusivity and helping to foster engaged individuals who want to get involved, I think that's fantastic. And my last question would be, through the bylaws, maybe is there a certain high water cap in terms of how many committee members we can have on the marketing committee? Is that something? Is there such a cap?
I'm not aware of any cap, but as
No.
Cindy mentioned, people come and go.
That's right.
And some people have maybe more available in the winter and not in the summer. Others might be more available in the summer, not the winter. So it helps balance it out.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I think what we'll probably find is the ones that have selected to be on multiple committees will sometimes deselect themselves the ones that they feel they're not having any influence on. So
That's right.
yeah, I mean, so I wouldn't be deterring because they're selecting on multiple committees. I think they just want to test the waters perhaps. And hey, if they can sit on all of them and participate and engage, fantastic. But from just past history, what I've seen is over time they deselect off the ones that they have no influence on.
Yep, very good. So do we want to, in terms of proceeding, it's sounding to me as though maybe an interview is the logical next step with all three of these individuals. Do we want to consider just a motion to do we need a motion to set up an interview with these three individuals?
I don't think we need a motion for that. I just think if you guys are, excuse me, all in agreement, then you would go forward. My only suggestion would be to maybe contact the chairs of the other committees and have them come in for one interview versus multiple interviews.
That's a great idea. I like that. Okay. So, very good. So,
Let you know who the chair of the other committees are, if you like.
yeah, so I think I know the chairs of the other committees. So,
But all of the other committees haven't met yet. So as of next Tuesday, all the committees will have met and had a chance to look over everything.
okay, so I'll put a note in my calendar then maybe for next Wednesday to follow up with the other committee members to see if they're interested or if they've decided to arrange any interviews with some of the individuals who have made multiple applications to other committees, and then we can maybe try to coordinate those interviews at the same time, right? And then in terms of logistically, so in terms of conducting the interviews, I mean, I for sure would be happy to make myself available to be part of that interview. Would there be anyone else who would be either sorry, was that Angela?
Sorry, I thought I put myself on mute. I need to wait for someone. Sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, the question was whether or not anyone else would, I mean, certainly Cindy, if you wanted to join me, I'd welcome that. Even Angela, if it was appropriate. I'm just not sure what's the past practice. I would welcome anyone else to sit in on that interview, I guess is what I'm saying.
This is actually pretty new ground for us.
Okay.
So it's what you decide.
Well, I think I would open it up to Matt and Cindy to because myself, I'm open to having other people join me. Matt or Cindy, are you guys interested at all?
On the duplicate, actually both candidates, I spoke with both of mine on the phone. One has deferred participation in the Community Development Committee until potentially the winter or fall. And it wasn't like a full-on screening of them, but I was just comfortable having them join. Their resumes were pretty impressive and they were great to speak to on the phone. So I can't think of anything in particular I would ask, or I kind of already told them they're welcome to the committee.
Sure. So you've already reached out to the individuals who applied to community development, is what
I
you're
had
saying.
inadvertently disclosed their names in the meeting, so I had to contact them to apologize. So I had
Okay.
to meet with each of them over that, and they were both lovely. So
Very good. I know there was overlap with one of those individuals on this committee. So, anyways, so that's good. So, yeah. So you would have already spoken to him or her, and so that said, would you be interested at all? You don't have to. Don't feel obligated. But were you wanting to participate in an interview?
just time-wise, I prefer not, but if you need somebody, I can be there.
Yeah, I don't think I necessarily need. I just want to, give everyone the opportunity to help be part of that process, I guess. So Matt, do you care to or want to be part of that process yourself?
Yeah, I can. The only thing I put in, if you're interviewing individuals that have interest in multiple committees, and as mentioned, if you're bringing in the other chairs, I mean, I guess, do we want to minimize the amount of people so it's not sort of overpowering for the candidate?
Yeah, and I should clarify, Angela, were you suggesting that if they're applying for multiple committees, that it's one interview with all the chairs, or is it separate interviews, kind of back-to-back type of thing, trying to coordinate it that way? What were you suggesting?
I
Just
was
so I'm
actually suggesting with all the chairs, but you might want to do it so that it's only like 2 chairs. And so then they'd have 2 separate interviews.
Yeah, because I kind of like the idea to, you know, in a sense, I don't know that we need separate interviews per committee. Right? I think that you could have the opportunity to ask the questions you want to within one interview. And I think it might be a little bit less overwhelming for the person who's applied, right?
Yeah, and as long as they're aware that there's more than one person that'll be in the interview,
Yeah,
I think that
yeah,
they'll
yeah,
be fine, right? It's if they
That's
walk
right.
in and it's like there's like 4 people from all the different committees and they weren't prepared for that, but it can
Yeah.
be overwhelming.
So I think on that basis, Matt, you make a good point. Like, again, I see with one individual who's applied for 4 committees, you know, if there's already going to be potentially 4 chairs in a room, do we need to add anyone else? I get that, but I know there's one individual who's just applied for marketing and another individual who's applied for 2. So I get that, right?
Yeah, so if you're just going to like the one that's just applied for marketing and you need another set of ears and eyes, I'd be
Yeah.
more than, but I think if it's the multiple, I think it's appropriate just to have the other chairs and
Yeah.
yourself.
I think that makes sense. So maybe I'll keep you posted on the individual who's just applied for marketing, and if you're available and wanting
Sounds
to
good.
join
Yep.
me, I would welcome that. Okay, so why don't we leave it at that then? So I think so. Anything else to say there on item number 6 before I move on to item number 7? Hearing nothing, I will let's move on to number 7, social media, COVID activities and updates. And Angela, I'll turn this over to you to give us an update on items 7A and 7B, please.
Well, actually, I'm going to hand that over to Taylor.
Perfect. Taylor, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
Not too bad, not too bad. Taylor, I look forward to meeting you at some point. I suppose on a go forward basis, I could come to Court 21 now, seeing as how you guys are all there, and I'll endeavor to do that for the next meeting for sure.
Awesome. Good.
Yeah. Anyways, so shoot, Taylor.
So social media is going as usual. We've got a few different campaigns. The volunteer campaign has officially kicked off. I believe we've got 2 posts up so far, and we've got a few more scheduled as well. We're still moving forward with the Takeout Day posts, which happen every Wednesday for National Takeout Day. That was kind of like a COVID and food and tourism initiative that we jumped on.
Okay.
We also on Monday filmed one of our first videos in a series that's going to feature different businesses in around town. So we're going to be rating them, and I say that lightly because we're not obviously judging businesses super hard, but it's kind of a fun light thing. So on Monday we filmed Roger taste testing a bunch of different chicken strips. So he kind of gave them like a bit of a review on different things like the taste of the chicken, the crispiness, the presentation, just fun little things like that. So we're working on editing that video and getting it up. It'll probably, we also have a grilled cheese one that we're planning and a potential pasta one, which Ivano has very kindly volunteered to do. So if anyone else is interested in participating and being on camera for one of these videos, let me know.
In the hand one.
Yes, and a hand massage. So we're trying to figure out a few different ways to incorporate not just restaurants, but services as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that first video is in the works. We're going to test it out on our newest social media platform, TikTok, as well as probably post it up to our Instagram because we do have quite a large following there.
Cool.
Yeah,
that sounds great. I know, again, as with the limited budget that we have, great ways to continue to engage, members of the community, hopefully on a limited budget, right? So
yes.
So that's great. So very good.
I think that's it for 7 for me.
Actually, I do have one other thing. So during COVID, we had some signs made up that said, shop local, open for business, thank you to our workers. they were at the Rainbow for quite some time because I hadn't gone picked them up from them. I couldn't bring them back yesterday because I had some other stuff and it was windy. So I took them to Global Therapeutic Massage and they took the opportunity to take a picture with them. So we might also be going around to some of the businesses and leaving them so that they can take the picture, send it to us, and then we can continue with those posts as well.
Yeah, cool. Very good. Anything else on 7A and 7B?
I think that covers it for now.
Okay, perfect. So moving on to item number 8, website update. So again, I'll kick it back to you guys, staff, for the website update.
So some very good news. We finally got back-end access to the members side of the website. So I can, I now have full control over that, what kind of
Fantastic.
links and documents we can post there. So that's great.
Quick question on that, Taylor. Did we incur any costs associated with doing that? Because I know that was a question from the last meeting.
So yes, but it's deferred to 2021.
Okay, do we know how much that cost is?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
$500.
Okay, and that was was it just to set up the access, or?
Yes, it was. So they had to build an entirely new link management piece on the back end of the website.
Yeah.
Give me access to it. So that was what that cost went towards, was creating that management system and the ability to upload the different links
Okay.
and documents on there.
I think having back-end access is important personally. Do we anticipate that will, over the long term, provide some sort of cost savings, I guess, with us managing some of the content on the back end, or like, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good question.
It will save time and costs because we were constantly reaching out to Miles, the person who is done our website for us.
That's right.
We were reaching out to him almost every day, getting him to upload different documents for us. So it was time consuming, and as well as there's
The lag.
there was a bit of a management fee that's built into the website portion for that as well. So that should reduce that.
Well, it might not, right? Because of
There's a few different things that we're looking at. We did get a quote for phase 2 of the website that will hopefully be restarting in January. So that is good. Well, we know what to set in our budget for that. And
Okay.
it's already all planned out. So as soon as we get the budget and the approval, we can go forward with it. And there shouldn't be too many surprise costs, if any. Hopefully not.
Gotcha. So you guys have that quote in hand right now, you're saying?
Yes.
Awesome.
yeah. So
Okay.
that will be discussed in number 12.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so sorry, I interrupted you as you were giving your update there, Taylor, so
No, that's
feel free to
okay.
carry on.
Pretty much the extent of it. We've also got quite a large number of articles that are in the works for the blog, so that's great. We've got some that are completed and many more in the final stages of editing, so we've got a lot of content that we can post there as well.
And to ask the question, so on the website, the blog is that on in the news section of the website?
It's under things to do.
Under things to do, okay.
So, because it mainly features different businesses in the
Yeah.
downtown core, and of course, everything from entertainment to places to eat to historical spots in the downtown core. So that's why we featured it under there.
Gotcha. Okay, and so I think, what were we endeavoring in terms of numbers of articles and frequency and stuff like that? Because I think in the last meeting, were we saying weekly, or I'm just trying to remember.
I believe it was weekly, and our goal is by the end of the summer to have enough bank to hold us through until the end of January.
Perfect. Okay, so basically, kind of starting in the fall, the goal is to go kind of weekly from fall to.
No, we're already doing them weekly, I believe.
There's been like a week or two where we might have missed posting one, just other things going on, or we didn't have something that was super relevant. So there are about 7 articles published up there.
Yeah.
Now at the moment, though.
Yeah, I don't know what everyone's thoughts are, but I think even if at a minimum, if there's once every couple of weeks, I think is still pretty good.
Yeah.
From my at least my opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and the objective of the blog posts, is it simply engagement? Is it an SEO thing as well too, or like what are some of the objectives with those blog posts, just as a reminder?
It's a combination. So it's definitely driving traffic to the website. I'm getting analytic reports, and then a lot of that is direct traffic from when we promote those articles on places like Facebook or Instagram. People are clicking the link and going directly to it, which is great. It's also highlighting businesses and things to do in the downtown, just keeping us relevant and trying to draw, people back here.
Yeah, perfect. So it sounds like it's kind of meeting on all those objectives. So that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else on number 8, Taylor?
No, that is it for today.
Okay. And then so we'll talk about, we said we talk about number 12, the actual quote that you received. So I think we're good then. So moving on to number 9 then, communications planning. So Cindy, I'll let you take this one, because I know between you and I we've been back and forth a bit, right?
Yeah.
Would you like me to provide a bit of an update?
No, if I can give a rundown on some of the background stuff, and then we can hone in on the one piece that we were bouncing back and forth.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds good.
So for the internal board communications, the city clerk is arranging a date for our governance training. So that's in the works. We've put out our first board meeting evaluation online. I think the response rate was respectable considering not all board members were there. So that's going to go to, why am I blanking on her name?
Government. Oh, Caitlin.
Caitlin on the governance committee, and she's going to provide a summary feedback for the governance committee, and then that'll be reported at the board. One thing, the automatic email response, do we know if that's been tagged to the board account yet? So if people email us an automatic reply,
I'm still waiting for your
Okay.
you to send me the automatic response.
Oh, is that okay?
Yes.
All right, I'll get on that. Then that piece will be done. So
Yeah.
all of our internal stuff is shaping up nicely as far as the board goes. The next chunk I'm working on is the ED performance evaluation. So that'll come with a little bit of a description. It'll be done biannually, and it's a 360 performance evaluation. So there will be some feedback collected from staff as well on that. We pushed out the staff student volunteer exit survey and the business exit survey. So those are all ready to go. The staff student volunteer check-in survey, which will be done quarterly, is also queued up. So we'll be, we're going to put that in, what's the Asana?
Yes.
Asana. So then we'll be automatically reminded to send these things out so that they don't, we don't lose track of it, because there's quite a bit going on. So the larger piece that we really need to spend some time with is, Isaac had suggested we have like an open board meeting for members who would like to have conversations with the board or ask questions. And since
So not a board, but like a town hall.
Yes, sorry, a town hall, yeah. And so that has kind of grown a little bit in that we've had some weekly meetings with the mayor for updates and recognizing that communication with the city could be improved. So the mayor has actually offered to host a BIA town hall as well. And then we thought, well, from the Community Development Committee, we have a member with lived experience sitting on that committee, and he had said he would be willing to speak with the BIA membership as well. He feels it's kind of a lack of education. And once the businesses are better informed, or if we break down that barrier between the unsheltered and the businesses, and we could perhaps make it less adversarial. Derek Giberson had also kind of chimed in on the political side and the statistics side as to what happens, because there's a misnomer that if we close all of our social services, then everybody will leave downtown and we'll be fine. And that's not necessarily the case historically, what's happened in other jurisdictions. So there's another town hall to maybe talk about the unsheltered population, give voice to the people, and potentially slide the welcoming streets in there as well. So because these town halls are growing we wanted to talk with the committee. Isaac and I thought we'd bring it to the committee to talk about timing, organization, scheduling, and how best to do it, considering we're still in the tail end of COVID with online stuff versus in person, and potentially anticipating a second wave, what would take priority and how to exactly go about arranging this. So Isaac, I don't know if I missed anything.
No, I don't think so. I think you pretty much nailed it on the head. So
So I've actually already reached out to the clerk's office and haven't heard back, but I did ask what the possibility was of us hosting a Zoom meeting that people would have to pre-register for with a limit of 75. And I would set the limit of 75 so that there's enough space then for the board, the staff, and a few people at the end if they wanted to join in last minute to make the maximum of 100, right? But I haven't heard back from them. Because that would, and I think their concern is that it wouldn't be considered open if it's only 100 spots, but we don't have the capability that the city has. And I've never seen a meeting with the BIA, even when people are pissed at the BIA. When I first joined, there was not 100 people that showed up for the first meeting. So I'll get back to them and ask them again. And you know, if we did get an overwhelming response, then we would just schedule one within the next week, right? So that everyone was included. But you know, timing and organization and scheduling, it's all going to just depend on what the clerk says that we can do right now with our capabilities. It's great to hear that the mayor is willing to host a town hall because they actually have the capabilities to have hundreds of people on at once, which we don't. But
so would it be you know, and Cindy, maybe you can tell me what conversations you had. Would it be kind of like a co-hosting in a sense, like the mayor with the BIA type of thing? And I think that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. He specifically said he would come in to address the BIA membership. So it wouldn't be open to anybody else but the BIA.
Gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay. So in the past, we have done town halls. And Matt was, you know, one of the people that really, you know, helped push making that we had quarterly town hall meetings. And, you know, at times we had a lot of people, at other times we didn't. And we tried to make it so that there was an educational component or something that the members asked for. So it's not something that is totally unheard of that the BIA has done.
Yeah.
So I think the members will be receptive. It's just how many and how we're going to be able to do it. Right?
Yeah.
It can be in person, or if it's partly in person, partly web-based, or if it all has to be on like Zoom.
Yeah.
And I think from my perspective as a business owner downtown, and I think the survey's indicating this, and I don't know if the phone calls are too, but the number one concern and priority and gossip is the unsheltered population and what's being done. So I think from my perspective, that would be priority. And I don't know if the mayor would want to be in the hot seat first, or if we go with like Derek Giberson and Dan, the individuals lived experience, to kind of soften kind of the entry point of hosting these town halls with a hot topic, but with a softer edge. And then I don't know, I don't think I'd like to see it quarterly for these issues. I'd like to see them, you know, ideally really close together. I don't know if a month is too far apart or if that's realistic, because I think there's a number of pressing issues, and since we're working on communication and transparency, to push this sooner rather than later.
I tend to agree. I think that there are a number of issues, and I think that we're, again, because we're in uncharted or unprecedented waters, I think that you know, I think people are engaged and they're looking for guidance and support right now, right? So I think that although in an in a normal, I use the word normal loosely, in a normal situation, maybe you wouldn't be looking to host town hall meetings every month. I think right now, I think that certainly you could warrant it, right?
Well, I guess the question I have is what's the content of the meetings and what's the carrot, right? Because that's going to be what sort of level of engagement we're going to get. So in respect to the mayor, is the mayor just coming in to sort of give the city update and show sort of that the city's aligned with the BIA, or is he prepared to be put into the hot seat and ask some tough questions from the membership?
Yeah, I think in our conversations with him, he's recognizing there's not a lot of good communication going on between the city and the BIA. So in order to remedy that, we're trying a bunch of different things.
Right.
So he literally used those words. He said, "I'd be willing to put myself in the hot seat." I think
Okay.
the disappointment is the city has invested a lot of time and money in, I think there's 7, they keep saying 7. I don't know if I can come up with 7 off the top of my head, but 7 different programs to help downtown, from CDN to On Point to WSI to even having the porta potties. Like, all these things are being done, but I don't think the businesses are aware that it's a collective effort. So we need to get that message out a little bit better, that in support of the city, and the city's now working with us to back that message. So it's twofold. One is, so it gives the mayor a chance to talk about the programs that he's putting together, and also he's willing to be put in the hot seat and answer.
So I guess that's my point, right? Is how do we market these town halls to get the largest engagement level, right? So is there an information session, sort of have your say, get your questions answered type thing, or as time goes on, do we go back to what it was, which was we sort of pulled the membership and what they were looking for, and that's what we structured the town hall around,
Yeah,
just so there was a variety each time.
Yeah, even like this, just even like a hot topic series.
Right.
And then like right now, obviously, we would have more closer together. And then hopefully once things go back to the way they were pre-COVID, potentially turning it more to the education component again. But I think we have enough hot topics right now to last us.
Yeah, but this is just from past experience and having done it, we've sort of got to be prepared of who's going to moderate the town hall too, because otherwise, things can get off the rails pretty quick. So we just got to put a little bit of structure behind what.
Yeah.
That's good. Good point.
Yeah, what the town hall meeting is actually going to look like. So that way, we just, it's not always one person coming and trying to sell their point of view. Is that, maybe they have 2-3 minutes and they got to be respectful of that time and say their point, and then we move on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so maybe, between Cindy and or myself, we could pick your brain, Matt. You've got experience doing this. We can maybe make sure that whatever is implemented is done so with a little bit of experience and forethought and like you said, some of that proper structure, right?
Yeah, and just like I know with respect to the mayor being good steward of his time, I know he probably won't. And if he does stay for the whole thing, great. But I know typically, probably want to be first up in the agenda, and then probably we'll exit stage left, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which I can appreciate because he's got a busy schedule. So.
Yeah, good point.
So just maybe if we can just decide the priority for the first 2 or 3 as a group, I'd be a little more settled with that. Yeah,
no, I think that makes good sense. So, so I think you brought up the one key one there, Cindy, which is just some of the issues with the unsheltered population, right? Like, I think that's a really hot topic, right? And I think it's on people's minds and it's of concern, right? So certainly I think that's a key one, right?
So we would have Dan, who's representative of the unsheltered population. Derek Iverson offered to come, somebody from Welcoming Streets. And do we invite someone from Durham Region Police, or just is that enough without the police for now?
I tend to think that I'm wondering if we could even include the police in a separate one, potentially even, because that's a lot of people to have all in one.
Yeah.
town hall potentially. And we could potentially save the DRPS for maybe a separate, but somewhat still related topic, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so certainly maybe for like this first one, as you mentioned, the committee member, Derek Iverson, and someone from Welcoming Streets, I think would be fantastic, right?
Okay. And then the follow-up to that, should we invite the mayor?
Like to that meeting or to the next one?
Next session.
The next session, yeah. I think logically it makes sense, yeah, to invite Mayor Carter to the second one.
And then, because I think it all started with one with the board, just the board being available for everybody. Because I think we can imagine we're going to be fielding questions about the budget.
So it could be mayor and board.
Yeah, I was just like to say that. Typically in the past, we had board members at the town halls.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could label that one as BIA issues or concerns.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll group those together. Okay. So those would be the first two. We can start.
And number 3.
Do we want to?
You said the first 3.
I know, but I was like, ah. So
Well, you
what?
had mentioned DRPS, right?
So DRPS would be number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so topically speaking, you know, we could probably come up with a topic that has to do with some of the actual issues that people are concerned about in the downtown right now, right?
And so one of them, like we can direct the issues when we talk with DRPS. So things like graffiti,
Yeah,
right?
Mhm.
It's not huge right now, but there still is some. So
Yeah.
you know, it could be graffiti. It could be, you know, report on break-ins if there are any. Like, was there an increase or a decrease? What they've sort of seen in the last quarter to current. It depends on how you want to direct it, but you could ask them to do specific things, right?
Well, I'm always the controversial one that opens Pandora's box. So I'll propose that potentially bump the mayor and the BIA to spot 3, and spot 2 put DRPS, bylaw, and Canadian Protection Services to show a united front and to explain each of their roles in downtown. Like I said, I know it is a hot topic people want to know. So by avoiding it and not addressing it up front.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you have Canadian Protection Services, why you wouldn't have Welcoming Streets there as well,
Yeah.
because they're sort of doing the same sort of thing, just different timings, right?
Or even someone from On Point to talk
Yeah.
about the needles, but more
Yeah.
like what we're doing, safety and
yeah, maybe
security.
On Point.
So we could wrap that as safety and security downtown, and then invite all the people who are taking a piece of that. But like I said, I know that opens up a lot of things, and we'd have to vet this through the city to see if they're comfortable with it, but that might help explain everybody's role to the membership.
Yeah, and actually to take it even a step further, would it even make sense to bump that to number 1? Because if that's more of a you know, if it's an opportunity to explain roles and who does what, you know, it might be a really good you know, from a timing standpoint, to get that in front of the membership prior to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I agree with that based on Canadian Protection Services being done, I think, in like
Yeah,
done in
exactly.
September.
Exactly, because
My
that's
My only hesitation is I think the unsheltered voice might soften things and give a human edge. If we just come in with safety and security, people I think might be more aggressive or not be
Yeah.
able to participate.
good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. Okay. You know, I think that you know, I would respect either direction, I think, really. So I would accept that. Matt, do you have any feeling on that?
No, I agree with what we've mapped out here. I think it flows well.
Okay. So good. So do we have consensus and clarity then on the you know, hypothetically 3 topics or town hall session topics? Then I think so, right?
Yeah, it's just waiting to see, I think, a start. And I'd like to make it happen as soon as possible, I guess, as soon as we hear back from the city.
Yeah, I'll call them today.
Perfect.
I agree. So just to take it one step further, so assuming the the city comes back and says that we're all good. We're looking at maybe once a month. You know, I think consistency is always important myself. So, you know, if it's a particular, you know, similar to our board meetings, you know, a particular day of the month, time, etc. That's probably, I mean, obviously from a scheduling standpoint, that's where it could get a little bit tricky to make sure that, you know, for example, the people that we're looking to invite are available for those times. Is that realistic, do you think, to achieve that? So am I hearing yeses? Yeah.
We're all
We're
nodding.
nodding our heads.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I suppose really because Cindy, you've been the frontline link to some of these individuals, right? Would you? I guess you and I could have offline conversations about what makes sense, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
In terms of timing and scheduling and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, we'll have to come up with the format and reach out to the key people.
Yeah.
And then we just need to go, well, you know what? We need to go ahead from the city. But yeah, no, we can definitely work together to make it happen.
Okay, and then I like Matt's suggestion. We should strongly consider a moderator. Who would we look to moderate these sessions? Any suggestions on that?
Matt.
I knew that was coming.
Is that something you'd be interested in taking on, Matt?
Yeah, I can do that.
Awesome.
I'll buy you coffee.
So great. So obviously we need to make sure we loop you in to make sure it fits your schedule as well too. So, so it sounds like the three of us can all communicate to that end. And that makes me feel pretty confident that, you know, we should be able to execute this fairly well, right? You've got the experience in that regard. So that's great. Okay. So is that enough? I think as a working start to continue to move this forward.
Yeah, for sure. And
I
then,
think so.
yeah, to wrap up number 9, sorry, I just looked at the clock. So
Yeah.
to wrap up number 9, I'm meeting with the crew right after this meeting to come up with a more scheduled communication plan where we have kind of like targeted dates where we want to give regular updates. So
Yeah.
we're just going to pull that together a little better this afternoon. And that's it. That's my
I have one quick thing to add.
Okay.
From our phone calls yesterday, so we started phoning all the members. We divided it into 4. Well, I finished my calls this morning, but during one of the calls, one of the people indicated that they would like quarterly phone calls. Just because they sort of feel isolated. Yes, they get the emails, and especially during COVID, this individual did have to come into work every single day, saw no one because no one was downtown and stuff. And they actually indicated that it really made them, well, it sort of made their day, you know, to know that someone cared enough to call to check in on the businesses and see how they were doing. And she expressed yesterday again how thankful she was that we called and
awesome.
we were asking about, you know, the communication level and stuff. They suggested quarterly calls. So that was just my experience. I know that Taylor had someone else who indicated that more sort of scheduled calls also would be helpful. It doesn't necessarily need to be quarterly. It could be like every 4 months. And again, that could be something that we set up in Asana where it pops up and says next week is schedule the time for your calls. You know, because it does take quite a while. You know, because we have some people that don't want to talk at all, but you know, you could have one person that spends a good 20, 30 minutes. And it could be anything from how grateful they are, how much they love the events, to, you know, discussing some of the issues that they're seeing and just having the opportunity to be able to talk to someone from the BIA about it.
Yeah. No, that's good. It's good to hear that the calls are making a difference. That's certainly, it's good to hear. You know, I'm not, like, I know that obviously we could be facing, you know, capacity and resource issues if you're being asked to place additional calls. I'm wondering if there's a few key members that are just really showing love and appreciation and they like the support of getting the calls, do we consider maybe some one-off scheduled additional calls to those individual members, or like or do we consider?
From making the calls, we rarely have any contact with the professional services.
Yeah.
But when we were doing the calls, that totally increased. We had some of the professional services, and this was the person that I spoke with was from the professional services sector. That actually looked forward to the calls. And it does give them the opportunity. Now we might want to, target certain sectors like the professional services, because we don't hear from them. Do the calls versus maybe just one person, because I did find when we called and asked very direct questions like, do you have any concerns, any questions? Have you seen anything that thought was out of place? Then we could get them more engaged. And I think that's the sort of thing that we need to keep doing, because that particular sector, they don't see anything, right? They watch the events happen. They may come out and participate, but we don't necessarily see that. But they never complain about things, right? And this gave them the opportunity to make sure that their voice is heard. And communication is one of our key things. Yeah, it's time consuming, but I do think that it's valuable, especially for the professional services.
That's good, and I definitely appreciate and value that feedback, because you're the one making the calls. So it's good to hear. So I would suggest that that's good. We should keep it up then.
Even if we just do it twice a year or something, then the members can at least see that this is another way that we're trying to communicate. Because remember that not everyone has email. There's at least 50 members that have not provided us with email. So we still have to hand deliver for the AGM notices and stuff. And even like the calls, yesterday I hand delivered the information to a number of places because, I know that they don't have the emails. And, it's kind of hard to make sure that you're writing down the URL correctly if someone's giving it to you over the phone, right?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, very good. Awesome. Okay, so anything else there, Angela, on number 9?
No, I think that's good.
And I don't think we necessarily require any motions for what we discussed on the communications plan, do we?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay, so moving on then to number 10, marketing campaigns. Again, I think this is back to Angela, you and the staff.
Yeah, I think that was actually discussed in number 7. When Taylor said about the
I have one more thing. So most of that was covered in, we don't have any events going on right now, so there's no kind of like TV or radio ads. There's nothing like that going on campaign wise. There is one thing I would like to introduce you guys to the idea of, is there's a Get Active challenge with Grandview Kids.
I saw that,
Yeah, so we were thinking we'd like to make a BIA team and start with it being comprised of all the board members, or the board members who are interested in it at least, and then opening it up to the members of the community, either to join our team or just to donate. So we have to get that ball rolling fairly quickly if we want to get involved with it, because it closes or ends on the 31st of August.
Yeah, okay.
So I do have part of an email drafted up. I was just kind of waiting to hear your guys' thoughts on whether you think it's something that we could accomplish as a staff and board team, and whether it's something that you think the community would be interested in. We've set a tentative goal of about $500, so that can be done through the participants and the people from the community going out and fundraising, or just donating, $2 or however much they feel. It's just a way to kind of bring the community together to start presenting a bit more of a united front, and to try and make a difference.
Yeah, for sure. I'm familiar with Grandview Kids. I think they're a fantastic organization. So I know myself, I'd be happy to support what they're doing and their work. Can you just give us a quick rundown again about the program, high level, just as a reminder for everyone's benefit?
It's all online this year, so you choose, or you can create a team or participate individually. We'd obviously be doing it as a team for this one. And then you kind of pick an activity that you like to do, whether it's running, jogging, skipping, swimming. And you kind of set yourself a challenge. So maybe it's completing 5K by the end of the challenge or swimming so many laps. You set that goal, and then you set a fundraising goal as well. And you take it upon yourself to obviously complete the physical part of the challenge. And yeah, from there you just collect donations and help support Grandview kids.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Thanks. Thanks for that summary. I mean, I know myself, I'd be willing to participate in that if there was more interest. So you can kind of count me in. So I don't know if anyone else. I mean, I suppose you can chat with others offline about that. But are you looking for the committee's support to I guess take that forward? Is that where we're at right now?
Yeah, we're just kind of looking for people to.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in here. Just knowing the agenda for the next board meeting, this wouldn't be able to be brought forward. And when our next board meeting is on the 27th. So I don't think that I think it's more of, is this committee okay with us approaching the rest of the board to be participants and the staff being participants and selecting a challenge and moving forward just because of the timeline? And, you know, we can put out a communication to the board, either from yourself or from Cindy, just saying that, you know, we're taking on this challenge. Would you guys be willing to participate as part of the board?
That's right. That's right.
Staff team.
Does anyone see any problems with that? Matt or Cindy, do you guys see any problems?
No, I don't see any problems with it.
All right. So that said, I don't have any problems with it. So do you, as a next step, you need a communication drafted?
Taylor's already working on it.
Yeah, so I'm working on the piece that will go out to the community. So we've got that, we're gonna send it out on MailChimp just to reach all corners of our membership and the people who are involved. But we'll definitely have another piece that goes out to the board, just letting them know that we're starting a team, please join.
Yep. Yep, no, perfect, okay. So very good, so on that basis then, I think we've covered that off, right?
Yep.
Okay. Was there anything else on number 10 before I move forward to number 11?
No, I think that's it for today.
Okay. So moving on to number 11, Digital Main Street.
Okay, so I can take that. So I've heard that BACD has received their grant, not as much as they requested. And during the calls, that is one of the things that we're telling people about is the Digital Main Street grant. Let them know that the link is in the email so they can just click on that to get more information. I'm also asking that any member who is signing up for it or applying for the grant to let me know personally or to let our office know so that we can then create our own list and then keep asking BACD, have you contacted these people? You know, let us know once you've contacted this group. These guys have applied for the grant. So that way we can make sure, because there have been a few that I've talked to that have said, no, we're not going to do that. But there's been others that have been really excited to hear about the program. Yeah.
That's good to hear because there was, I guess, not as much engagement in the program prior. And I know that there was some, you know, inherent issues with it. So I get it too. But no, it's good to hear that there's some interest. I suppose the timing's probably pretty good right now too, right?
Yeah, I think the timing has something to do with it.
Yeah.
But you know, just from my calls, there were quite a few people that seemed quite interested, or you know, they're like, I'll send it up the chain. There are some restrictions, but you know, I'm still encouraging everyone to check it out, even if you know they may not be eligible. They might know someone else that they could pass the information along to as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Very good. is that it? Is that everything, Angela, for now?
Yep, that's it for that.
Okay. So then item number 12, considerations for the 2021 budget.
Yeah, so I can start because I've got a couple of things. So
Yeah.
there's things that we need to get numbers. Doesn't necessarily mean that we need to have the exact plan, right? So for the web development, we know the number that it's going to be for next year. We have added in the 500. We need to verify one other thing, but right now we've set that budget at 6,000.
Okay.
Okay, so we have to verify the web hosting. Just because looking at last year's marketing budget, the web hosting was set at 2,400. We're not sure. So we'll leave that as a separate line item if it does.
Yeah. And quick question, and it's related, but somewhat separate. So this year we're in the process of renewing, it's our, what do you call it? The domain names, right?
Every year we have to renew the domain names.
Yeah, so I think you just answered my question. So that's an annual renewal every single time. So it's done on an annual basis?
Yes.
Okay. Are there options to do it on a longer term to save some dollars, or is that even something that
It doesn't save us anything.
Okay.
I did look into it, and I'm just looking. I've actually put that under the domain renewals under network in administration.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
If marketing wants me to move it into marketing, I can do that, but I didn't think marketing wanted me to.
Yeah.
So, and it's clear, like as I'm doing the budget or adding things in from the different committees and stuff, I am putting notes along the side so that everyone knows what that line item is comprised of, so that there's no surprises.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
Good.
did you say hosting was 2,400?
Yeah, that's what's listed in last year's marketing budget for for this year, 2020. And I'm not sure what that's for, because I think Mario said it was like $100 or $200 or something.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I paid a couple $100.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering.
Yeah, we should look into that.
Yeah, that's why like when I printed it off this morning and I looked at it, I'm like, what? So I've asked Taylor to check that because she had a couple other questions for Miles. So we're looking into that.
Even the pricing, are we contracted with Miles for a particular amount of time?
So they don't actually sign a contract.
Okay.
That's what I've found out.
So
So
how did we
it's
wind
not
up there? Was
necessarily
it pricing, or how did-
it was pricing, but not just pricing. So there was an RFP process that went out.
okay.
We received at least 3 RFPs in returned. It was brought to the marketing committee. It was discussed at length. Then what the marketing committee wanted changed what the RFPs were. So we asked for some changes. And even with the changes, this was the one that the marketing committee felt best suited what the BIA wanted. They would fit in with our budget, and we're very accommodating. Right?
Thank you.
So, and so on the budget from last year, it says domains. Again, I have the domains listed up under networks and administration because those are ongoing. The one thing though that we have in here is the social tools management interfaces. So that would be things, I know Cindy's looking at me like I'm insane. So that would be things like Canva. And right now we have, we're using the free version, and Taylor is struggling because there's all sorts of options with the paid version that you just can't get with the free version. Taylor did try to get the nonprofit rate for us. Unfortunately, because we're not a registered charity and can't produce charitable receipts, we're not eligible. And that's what their definition is you have to be a registered charity with a CRA, and we're not. And so we have tried options. So we probably should try to set money aside for things like that. I will let Taylor indicate if there's anything else, but Canva definitely was one that we really should be budgeting. Again, last year's budget was 1,200. I would say if we could keep it at that, because there are other programs I know that they were using that we had to stop.
Yeah.
Right? So like Creative Cloud.
Yeah, so Adobe Creative Cloud, we don't have access to that anymore. So that's things like Photoshop and Premiere Pro for editing. Also, another thing that I really want to look into is a content management system for social media. So we were using one before. It totally did not fit our needs. So when it came time to kind of reduce things, I canceled that.
Is it like Hootsuite or whatever?
Yeah, so
Something like
we
that?
were using Meet Edgar, and it just was not
No.
what we needed it, doing what we needed it to. So I want to look into some more of those kinds of systems, but something that would better suit our needs, and we would need a budget for that.
So is everyone okay with leaving the same budget from last year? Which was $1,200? I'm seeing Cindy nod her head yes.
I think on the surface, I would say yes.
Yeah, I think it's,
Sorry, what was that, Matt?
yeah, I think it's okay.
You know, there's, as we look into what the pricings are, we can let you guys know, you know, if this is, you know, if we think that we won't use that amount or whatever, but I think it's better to have a set amount as a maximum, right? And then, you know, we have to work within that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that one's not in there. So I guess we need to look at, are we going to do things like billboards, bus ads? So sort of just in general, marketing the downtown and what sort of dollar value we'd like to put it with that. And this is where I say we don't necessarily have to have the plan in place, but we should have some dollars that is set aside for that, so that when we have a chance to really sit down and look at all of our options, that we can actually then choose and be able to come up with something that's meaningful for us.
Right. So I suppose this past year's budget was all premised on the strategic plan, right? So you're suggesting that we need to have a number in place, even if we're not necessarily fully carrying out that strategic plan. Is that, am I summarizing that correctly?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, basically what I'm saying is if we're going to look at maybe doing bus ads like we've done in the past, or billboards that don't necessarily, sometimes we do those for events, but there's nothing saying that we can't have a billboard, say down by, the Oshawa Center. There's a billboard that we were able to use for one of our events. There's nothing saying that we can't have that billboard that directs people to the downtown to come and go to eat and things, right? So it's more things like that. How are we gonna be advertising the downtown, but we need to have some sort of dollar value towards that so that we can actually work with that.
Yeah. I know myself, I'd be looking towards your guidance as well as Matt's, just from your guys' experience in terms of what that, what a realistic dollar amount would be, right?
Well, I'm gonna let Matt chime in on that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's what's going to happen with our overall budget as a BIA, first of all,
Yeah.
and how that drives down to what's proportioned to marketing, and then really, you know, adding into your point, Isaac, it's more coming up with a strat plan for the marketing committee in terms of what avenues and mediums to use for marketing for the 21 time period. And then it's just mapping it out and then just executing on it, right? And the big thing though that we have to do is to put in place this matrix to measure, was this a successful way of advertising or not? So that way, when we're going for the following year, we can quickly say, you know what, bus ads really didn't give us a return on investment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the interesting part about all this too is here we are sitting on August 12th, and what happens between now and the end of the year, I guess none of us really know what the environment's going to look like, right?
Well, that's just it, right? And then we've got
Uh,
events, the events committee too, sort of what do we have tabled and what are we going to execute on next year?
That's right. So yeah.
I think from my perspective, if the previous budgets fell relatively within certain means, to look at that, but also Ivano's been quite clear that he wants a bottom-up budget. So he, instead of like picking a number and then trying to increase the levy to that number and then slotting the funds wherever they may fall, he really wants us to come to the table with a different perspective, stating this is what we need and what we're going to do with it. So potentially there will be less questions and less challenging than saying we want this big lump sum and then we'll figure out what to do with it.
Yeah, good added point there. So so it sounds like we probably need to do a little bit more or give some more thought to that. When would be an appropriate time? Like, again, because we're in this period of uncertainty, in order to put some sort of a strat plan together for the committee for next year, you know, how soon is too soon, or when is an appropriate time to get a sense of what the environment is dictating? And, or will there even be many changes between now and the end of the year that we could foresee? Like, what are people's thoughts there? Do you have any thoughts there, Angela?
Well, my concern is that I believe it's supposed to be the August board meeting where budgets from the committees are to be presented and then they'll be discussed.
Okay.
That's kind of why I'm pushing for dollar values, just so that you guys have an idea. And, you know, by all means, Taylor and Roger and I can work on some sort of preliminary strat plan and send it to you guys, and then you guys could send it back, say no, yes, whatever, make changes, how about this, so that we have, let you guys have something when you're going into the meeting. But looking at our timeline right now, yeah, unless you're going to have another meeting within, you know, a week to a week and a half, I don't foresee being able to do that and have a preliminary budget to take to the board to start discussing the budgeting process for this year.
Okay, because this is discussed in the board's regular August meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that said, you're suggesting that we proceed with. Are you getting back to suggesting that we proceed with coming up with a number?
Yeah, because when you guys are discussing at the board level,
yeah,
it might come back with, well, we don't think that, you know, we're going to be able to do that. Like, it might be, well, we're not going to be doing all of these events, so the events budget is less, but we still need to market the downtown, right?
that's
So,
right.
there are things like that need to be considered, right?
Yep.
Because I would think actually marketing, our budget should increase a little bit to raise awareness, to draw people downtown, to deal with damage control.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's going to depend on how many events we host too, because that marketing the events will help market the downtown, and a little bit vice versa. But if we only have 4 or 5 events next year, then we might want to really push just the downtown piece.
Yeah, and I would almost argue that, and to Cindy's point, you know, in a time when it's, you know, pouring rain, that's the time when you need the investment, right? Into things like this, you know, not during the good times. So if anything, there is.
Yeah, so I'm gonna throw out a couple of numbers and a couple of other things. So graphic designer, I'm gonna say like $2,000 for events, or sorry, events for marketing. And that can be various things, right? It could be like creating the signs and whatever. And then the marketing, I'm just putting like sort of general marketing, meaning like for the downtown. I would say at least 20,000. In fact, I'd say that that's extremely low, but it's, at least it's a number, right? I don't want for you guys to be able to go in and then you know, it's like, well, we don't know about this, we don't know about this, but I think having some sort of number and a general number at the end, at least that helps.
Yeah, so what was last year's number, Angela? Just
I think, well, give me a minute, because there's an item in here that is definitely not going back in, that the board has decided should not be in there. So I just need to look at last year's budget for, I'm pulling that up. So the marketing campaign, mixed media campaign was 52.2 last year. That's what the approved budget was.
Okay. And then the amended was
And then the amended was 20,000.
20,000. Okay. And what sort of yeah, so I know myself, I feel like I could defend you know, the rationale for increasing the past year's budget, for example, right? Based on what Cindy had to say and what I'm suggesting as well too. You know, so do we think 20,000? Sorry, go ahead.
So with the numbers that I've given you already, it's almost 30,000.
You're saying total?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, hang on, sorry, because I think there's a separate line item for the website. So yeah, separate line item for the website. So it's like 24,000.
Okay. Compared to 20,000 actual this year.
Well, this year's actuals is even less.
Okay. Got
Right?
you.
So, yeah, because we had the amended budget that we had submitted to the council was 20,000.
Okay.
This year it's just over 8,000.
Yeah. Do you think 24 is enough to really ramp things up if we need to?
No, I don't.
You don't think it is?
No,
Okay.
I would say,
That would be my main concern.
yeah, I would say like 35 to 40,000. And that would include the additional, say, 8 that I've identified,
Yeah.
close to 8.
Just to put things in perspective, like a bus ad for 4 weeks can range anywhere from like $500 to $5,000 depending on the size and the number of colors and stuff like that. So,
Yep.
You know, it can really add up really quick.
Yeah. So I guess the tricky part is trying to, I think, appease what our board chair is looking for in terms of the way that we approach the budgeting, and trying to make sure we have enough resources, I think, to carry out a realistic plan in the new year, right? Does anyone have anything else to add there? Like, you know, I certainly understand where Ivano's coming from. Does anyone have any other perspectives to add to that?
Yeah, it's just going to be tough because we don't know what levy we're going to render, right, for next year. So we go through this process and say we want 40K, and my 10 cents is that's the number that I sort of had in my head was about the $40,000 mark. But we've got to be prepared to be able to pivot on that dollar amount, right?
That's right. And I think the other thing too is, you know, we'd have to be prepared to back up, I guess, that number with I guess, a little bit more color. I guess, is that based on what you're saying, Cindy, what Ivano is kind of expecting, right?
Yeah, within general terms, because that was my concern, because the community development had never had a budget before. So when we were trying to think of a budget, I was like, well, how closely do we have to justify our ask? But I think as long as we have the main buckets identified, it doesn't have to be too detailed.
Yeah. Okay. So does 40,000, so Matt, you're suggesting 40,000. Does 40,000 seem too much to, you know, again, Cindy, what are your thoughts? Angela, like,
I think it's on the low side, but I think I think it's realistic, right? Like, we can manage within that. You know, are we going to do a huge marketing campaign with that? No, but we're already sort of like we're already being trained right now to utilize more of social media and things like that. So that could be where our big focus is, but also we do still need to get out there more, you know, whether it's a bus ad, billboard, whatever, right?
Yeah.
You know, we just need to be able to have options.
And you think that that $40,000 amount?
Yeah,
would-
so this is, I've done a sort of rough right up here. So I have website at 6, the social media tools at 1,200. The general marketing or the mixed media is 28,800. Graphic designer at 2, and then miscellaneous advertising I just took from last year's is at 4.
Okay, and the total amount of that
Is 40,000.
is 40,000. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So to me, that seems reasonable. Is everyone in agreement to that? Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Wait.
Matt, you're good?
Yes.
So what I'm going to suggest now is I'm going to take the 6,000 out. We'll leave the 40,000, but that gives you guys a 6,000 wiggle room because the website has a line item on its own on the actual budget.
Okay.
Okay. So then that actually, if you look at the actual full marketing budget, would be 46,600, but that gives you the 6,000 if people are saying, yeah. Does that sound okay?
Sounds fine to me.
Matt, are you okay with that?
Yep, makes sense.
Okay. Great. So in the notes that I send out to the group, this will be in that. So you guys can send feedback as well.
Okay.
And then, as I said, we'll start trying to work on sort of a strat plan for the marketing campaigns.
No, that's fantastic. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so do we need to pass any motions there on number 12 procedurally? Angela, do you?
I don't know. No, because we're not setting a budget. We're proposing this and it's going to the board where the budget will actually be proposed and accepted.
That's right. Okay. Very good. Okay, so are we good to move on to number 13 then?
I believe so.
Okay, awesome. So number 13, is there any new business to bring to the table today? Hearing nothing, I think it's safe then to move on to number 14 and we can declare the meeting adjourned. Thanks
That's
everyone.
motion for.
Sorry? Oh, yes. So, yes, thank you. Can somebody forward a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
And a seconder?
I'm on that.
Thanks. And anyone opposing? I hear none. So adjourn today's meeting. Thank you.
Good job, Isaac.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Thanks everyone for your time.
Thanks.
Take
Yeah.
care.